Hello YouTube, nice to see you again and welcome to my second video. If you've never seen my face before, my name is Dremi and I basically talk about my life and what's on my mind week after week, or hopefully week after week. It's only my second video. And if you watched my first one, well, welcome back and thank you for believing in me and giving me a chance. On my last video, I did a little Q&A just to get to know me, but I feel like it was very surface level and I kind of wanted to dig deep this week into one of the biggest parts of my personality, and I feel like that's my identity as a Puerto Rican. And I just wanted to share my journey from Puerto Rico to the Diaspora and how that changed me really, and the different times I've come to the US and what I've done every time. Now, I want to preface this video by saying that me and my husband have been incredibly privileged in our journey from Puerto Rico to the US, and I will talk about my struggles and stuff, but they are not complaints. They're just kind of sharing my story because everyone struggles, but obviously it's nothing compared to the struggle that other people have coming to the US or moving from their home. So I just wanted to kind of open this video. It's kind of an open invitation to anybody who wanted to share their diaspora story, because your story matters and you matter. So just share your story. So I decided to divide my story in 3 chapters. Each is basically one of the times that I came to the United States and what I learned in my different experiences. So let's get started. So back in 2015, I was a sophomore, I want to say, 19 years old, and I used to hang out with my best friend in college, and then we would hang out in the Generals building. Generales is what we called it. Even though we were done with the Generales classes, we would go there because they had this little cafe restaurant situation, and we would go there and eat. We would only eat rice and beans and Blaze iced tea. It tastes good. So, and yeah, we had a good metabolism, so who would complain? Anyway, and on one of those occasions, there were these people handing out balloons, and they were green, and they would say Disney College Program on them. I actually got a picture with it. I'll put it right here. And it really got me thinking about studying abroad, which seemed very scary at the time. Like I mentioned in my last video, me and my mom were very united. So the idea of going away to another country and basically becoming an adult away from her was very shocking to me. But I thought it would be really cool, a really cool way to do that. And so I started thinking about going away. My first idea was going to study in London for a semester, kind of a student exchange program. So I went to the office for international programs, and it was closed. And I went 2 more times and it kept being closed. So I don't know if it was a sign of the universe or something, but they clearly did not want me in England. So I decided to give the Disney College Program a shot, and then I went to their office. They were open. So I got an orientation over there, and I decided to apply, and I got accepted. So on this portion of the video, I'm kind of gonna go into the whole application process for the Disney College Program and my experience with it. So if you are not really interested in that though, there is a timestamp right here for where you can skip and kind of not listen to any of that. So I'll kind of break down the process of applying to the Disney College Program and everything you have to do. However, if you are considering doing it, I would take it with a grain of salt because I did it almost a decade ago and they have changed a ton of stuff. So if you've done the college program in this decade, I highly recommend comment down below how it's changed. Or if you do make a video, kind of tag me so I can kind of watch how it's changed. So by the name, you can probably surmise that you have to be in college since it is the Disney College Program. Back when I did it, you had to be either enrolled in a university or college, or you have to have just graduated from it. I believe it was a year after you could still do the college program. I think that's changed since, but I'm not sure. So, and it was also transferable credits to a specific class. In my university's case, it was an economics class. Obviously, I was a humanities major, so I didn't really need an economics class. So I basically lost a semester. I got 4 credits that semester, but it was fine because it's something I wanted to do and it was worth it. Clearly, because I've mentioned it like 7 times in this video and the last one. So anyways, the application process. So you apply to the Disney College program as you would any job, really. You submit your resume and you fill in your basic information. If they like you, you pass to the written interview, which is basically your preferences, what you've done with your life. They give you like situations with guests and you have to answer what you would do in those situations. This is also the part of the process where you kind of tell them what you'd like to work in, what your role would be at Disney. Of course, you can't select exactly what you want. You kind of have to tell them what you wouldn't want or what you would prefer. For example, I said that I didn't want to drive any like big buses. I didn't want to do lifeguarding because I can swim, I can't save. I also told them I didn't want to work with food just because that's a personal preference, and I didn't want to do housekeeping. So based on that, they kind of take your preferences and they match them with your resume to see if they can fit you anywhere. Unfortunately, this is where most people get stuck in the interview process. I don't know if it's because of the answers or maybe their preferences didn't match with anything they were looking for at the moment. But if you do pass, you pass to the phone interview, which is exactly what it sounds like, a phone interview. Although I'm pretty sure now they do camera interviews because that's what I did last time, but we'll get to it when I get to that time. By the way, a hot tip. If it's still phone interviews or even if it's video interviews, just remember to smile through it. They really hear your smile through the phone. And obviously if it's a video, they see your face. So smile. If they see that you're really excited about this work, it really helps towards you getting accepted. So after your phone interview, the worst part happens, which is just waiting for acceptance. And it is the worst part because by this point, you're excited and you've joined Facebook groups of people who also applied, and they're starting to get their acceptance letters and their postcards, and you hear nothing back. And by this point, you're starting to accept that maybe you're not getting the role and maybe you're not going to Disney. And, you know, you start like losing hope really quick, but don't. They take a bit, and I got my email and I got my postcard. I was one of the last ones in my like group to get it. So don't lose hope just yet. In my case, when I got accepted, I got very annoyingly excited. Well, it was either cute or annoying depending on how you feel about a 19-year-old dressing up like this for her orientation. I also made this my Facebook banner. So I was very excited. Then I was introduced to one of the worst websites I've ever had to handle, which was called Dorms. Dorms is kind of self-explanatory, is where you choose where you're going to live and who you're going to live with. Oh yeah, because the college program, you have roommates and you live with other people. So you either select who you're going to live with and where you're going to live, or you kind of just get random, whatever they decide. Obviously, back then, you had more options. You had 4 different places you can live in, which was Vista Way, Chapel Road. No. So back then, you had the option of 4 different places to live in. You had Vista Way, you had Chatham Square, you had the Commons, and you had Patterson Court. And then in each of those places, you had an apartment of 4, 6, or 8 people. And each place was like a level of fanciness, starting with Patterson Court as the fanciest and ending in Vista Way. So I'll give you 3 seconds to guess which one I was in. By the way, these apartment complexes, I'm pretty sure don't exist anymore. or maybe some of them do. I know Vista Way doesn't exist anymore. It was bought by another company and rebranded, and now it's like Emerald Grove or something like that. Now the Disney College program, I'm pretty sure it's just Flamingo Crossings, and I think it's just two different ones, like South and North, but don't quote me on that. I haven't done it in a while. So if you need roommates, how do you find them? So what I did was I joined like I said, a Facebook group, and people there used to put like scripts, basically a Q&A with all their information. And if they liked you, they would message you. And so thankfully I had a girl reach out to me, and she already had 2 more people interested in her apartment, and she was waiting for answer for a 3rd one, so that would make 4 people. And then she messaged me, and so I had met a girl in my orientation at my university that I could bring along, so that would make 6. So we all went together for 6 roommates, and we chose Chatham Square. We wanted to live in Chatham Square in a 6-roommate apartment, but we ended up with Vista Way. And then the girl I wanted to bring decided to drop out at the last second, so we got a random roommate at the end, but that's tea for another time. Then after you get accepted and you choose who you're going to live with, and they choose for you where you're going to live, it's time to pay, because the college program isn't free. You have to pay for it. I'm pretty sure the fee is for first and last month, just like any apartment. But I'm not sure actually what you have to pay for other than that. But yeah, you pay, and then luckily I had the money at the time, so we paid, and away we went. Then comes the most exciting day, which is check-in day. It's where you basically meet your roommates. I met them the night before. We kind of met up in Disney Springs, and we met each other. But then you go to check-in day, and I met with one of my roommates there. She was in the line, and I saw her, so we kind of hung out, and we checked in together. And then at the check-in, they give you your, obviously, apartment key, and they give you your ID to live in the apartment complex. And they also tell you where you're going to be working. So at that point, I had already known that I was going to be a concierge. And I found out there that I was going to be in Port Orleans, Disney's Port Orleans. Which honestly, at that point, I was unfamiliar with. I didn't even know that was a resort. But yeah, I loved it. I ended up loving it. Anyway, now that the actual process is over, I'll switch over to present day Drummy, so she can actually talk to you about my experience at the Disney College program. So once I got accepted and made my way to Kissimmee, it was time for my life as an independent woman to start, which was very scary and very terrifying. But at least I wasn't alone. I had my 5 roommates with me, and we had already known each other, and we had created a bond, so it wasn't as terrifying. And they were doing this for the first time as well. It was their first time away from home as well. So we were all kind of going through the same thing. And I was really lucky to have chosen these roommates, because 4 of us were Latinas and 2 of us were Puerto Rican. So we were away from home, and we kind of had the same experience. So I didn't feel as lonely and as jarring. It was very much, we were all going through the same thing, and we could relate in some way. The other 2, one was just from the US, born and raised, and the other one was from Jamaica. That one I didn't really talk to a lot. She wasn't my in-room roommate. So basically how it worked is that the apartment had 3 rooms, 2 girls per room. So I was with one of the Latinas. She was from Guatemala and born in Miami. And then there was another girl from Puerto Rico, and then another girl born in Texas but from Mexico. Her family was from Mexico, and then the one from the US, and then the one from Jamaica. And so we all lived together, but we didn't really see each other a lot because we were basically working. We would see each other at nighttime, maybe, and sometimes we'd hang out, but I didn't really hang out with all of them. I only hung out with some of them. Not by choice, of course. It was just whoever was free that day you would hang out with. But it was really fun. even started doing this tradition where we would buy puzzles and we would kind of just lay them in the coffee table. And they thought it was uncool at first, and I started making it, and then they all like slowly started joining me. And it would become a thing where we would do the puzzle, and then we would tape it up, and then we would hang it on the wall. And then suddenly you'd come home and there was a new puzzle on the table, and you just kind of sit down and work on it for a couple hours, and then kind of just leave and come back to it, and then it'd be done, and then we would tape it up. It was really cool. And then at the end of the program, each of us got like a puzzle to take home. So that was really nice. I'll see if I find a picture. I can put it right here. Another thing I immediately did was find my like home places. So like basically like restaurants and stores that were Puerto Rican. So if I was ever feeling like homesick or anything, I'd go there and kind of like decompress and kind of come back home. So shout out to Melao Bakery. That's where we would go most of the time. But it wasn't all fun and games. Obviously there was work. You were there to work. So like I said, I was concierge at Disney's Port Orleans Resort. That was a resort that is based or themed after New Orleans. And it has two sides. It has the Riverside and it has French Quarter. And back then, by the way, they had two different costumes. They're right here. I'll put them somewhere around here. Now they only have the purple one. And that's the worst of the two. But anyway, I don't choose the costumes. I just have that grievance. Because I found that out the second time I went, and I was very disappointed. But anyway, aside from the work, we had classes, I think twice a week. The classes were held at Patterson Court, so we had to take a bus over. Oh, by the way, if you didn't have a car, you would bus everywhere, which was excellent. You had buses to go everywhere, to work, to the parks, to the mall once a week if you wanted to. The grocery store, I think twice a week as well. So it was really great. It was a really easy way to get around. But I digress. That's not what I was talking about. I was talking about the classes. And the classes, the ones I took at least, were really fun. Well, one of them was. One of them was creativity. I don't know the exact name, but one of them was like economics and the other one was more creative. And that was really fun. And it's where I met some of my best friends as well. So it was really cool to also have classes and meet more people outside of your circle, because obviously you would get used to your roommates and your cast member friends, I don't know, co-workers at your location. But it was fun to come out of your circle and kind of make other friends. And for example, one of my friends, he is from Colombia. And I brought him over and he became like all of our friends, and he became basically part of the group. So that was really fun. I also met another friend in my like orientation classes, which I didn't talk about. So before you start working, I'll do that right now. Before you start working, there is this orientation day called Traditions, which is very big in the like process or in any Disney employment. Everyone goes through Traditions, not just the Disney College Program kids. Okay. You go through Traditions, which is basically just like a welcome fest, and they show you videos and they kind of explain what it's like to be part of the Disney like family and creating magic for guests and all that. And it's very exciting and very like overwhelming. A lot of people cry during it. I took this picture during Traditions, or this picture, I don't know where I'm gonna put pictures now, but I took a picture with Traditions, and I'll be completely honest, it's still my like professional picture because it looks really good. And they give you your name tag and they give you your blue ID, and it's really fun, and it's really, like I said, emotional. You also get ears, so it's very much like a welcome to Disney. Anyways, what I was coming back to, you go then to your actual like training for your work, and you go to a building literally called Disney University. And in those classes, I met more than one of my best friends as well. And it was really good. She was Puerto Rican as well. So it was really good to have her, because at at that moment have some like situations back at home, and she really helped me through it. So that's why I'm saying that you're alone in the sense that you're not with your family and you're away from home, but you're not really alone. You create your community over there, and it's really like heartwarming because you make friends from all over the world. And obviously my friend group was mainly Latinos, but I did meet so many people from so many like different countries. It was amazing. Like, it was an unforgettable experience. No promotion. I'm not being paid. I wish though. But if I'm being honest, I did struggle a lot. I was homesick most days, and it didn't help that I had like a couple situations back at home. Like, my relationship was not in a great place, and my siblings were about to move to Italy, and I didn't know when I would see them again. So I had this urgency to get back home, but at the same time I wanted to enjoy myself and like live my experience. So it was really tough kind of balancing the two. My program was only 4 months long, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but to me it was like an eternity. Like, I wanted to get back home, and it was really much a conflict because I was having a really good time and I didn't want to leave, but at the same time I had to leave to see like my siblings and like fix or not fix whatever was going on with my relationship. But it really helped that some people did visit me from back home, including who I was in a relationship back then with, and even a surprise guest who came to visit me, and he's right here. And it was amazing, and he really helped me. He literally heard that I was really sad, and he like planned a trip. They were probably already going, but he included me in their plans so I wouldn't feel as bad, I guess. But yeah, that was really sweet. And yeah, the rest is history. So like I said, the program is 4 months long. However, they kind of offer you to extend if you want to. Like I said, it was 4 months long when I did it. I'm pretty sure it's longer now. I think it's like 6 months, and then you can extend it to a full year. But when I did it, it was 4 months, and you could extend, I believe, 2 more months. But obviously, I had to go back home to say goodbye to my siblings before they left. So I didn't extend. I went back home at my 4-month mark. The craziest thing, though, is that I lived experiences, obviously, and I did all of this, but I was at Disney. So it very much felt like I was just living my girlish dreams. So it didn't really feel like I was doing much to further my like adultifying, but I really did, because I got back home, and obviously I moved back in with my mom, and I like noticed how hard it was. Not hard, obviously. I've lived with my mom before I went, but like I had gotten a sense of like independence, and then suddenly I was living with my mom again, and she's always been very open. She didn't really like police me, and she didn't say like you have to be home by this hour or anything. She would just tell me to like let her know when I got home, but it was different. It was like I didn't live by myself anymore, and I realized that I was successful in cutting the umbilical cord, and I had felt that I could live by myself, and I'd done it. So it was a really enriching experience, and even though it was like a bit painful, especially towards the end, I don't know, I grew up a lot at Disney, and yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot. So I highly recommend it if you're trying to get your independence but have it not be as scary. I would recommend Disney, or maybe any exchange program is really good. I just say Disney because it's at least for me, it was close to home, so it wasn't that jarring, and I wasn't alone, and anyone could like visit me whenever I wanted. So yeah. So fast forward to 2021, I believe. It happened about 5 years since I've done the Disney College program, and I could not let go of the idea of going back. That year we traveled to Disney twice. One of them including my engagement trip, which was really cute. I could talk about it in another video if you'd like me to. But yeah, my life had changed a lot, so I didn't know how to make a Disney career happen for me. But I was basically Disney crazy at that point. Like I said, we went to Disney twice that year, and we would spend our nights like watching videos from mainly Resort TV1, shout out to them, of them just walking through the parks, and we were just imagining we were at the parks. So like my life had turned towards going back to Disney. I even turned my career towards that. I was working at a bank like a couple years prior, and I changed to working at a hotel so I could get experience to work at a hotel again at Disney. So I had a goal in mind, and I was not gonna let it go. Also, P.S. at that hotel is where I met one of my best friends. My husband and I always wanted to leave Puerto Rico to come to the U.S. just because of our like careers. My career, where I wanted to write and publish, I wanted to publish in English, and I knew it wouldn't have sold as well in Puerto Rico. It has since changed, like with the rise of Book Talk and all of that. But back then it was like not big to sell English copies in Puerto Rico, English books in Puerto Rico. And my husband's career, he could only make it up until one level, and that was basically it for that field. So it was better for him to leave Puerto Rico for that. So we always had the idea of moving from Puerto Rico, but we didn't want to move until we got married because we wanted all our family there. Plus Puerto Rico is beautiful. So by December 2021 we got married. I'll put a picture somewhere. We were there with all our friends and family, and then around April of the next year we gave up our apartment to move in with my mom so we could save up. And that's when like the wheels were rolling. So we knew we wanted to move, so we were saving up. And by July I had quit my job at the hotel, and my husband had like a stay-at-home like job, like a remote job, so he could keep his. But we traveled to visit my dad in New York, and we stayed there a couple days, and we kind of just made a tour of the US. We stayed with my dad, and then we went to visit my cousin in Massachusetts. And I don't know why I said it like that. I was gonna say Mass, and then I decided to say the whole thing, Massachusetts. So forget that. But we went to Massachusetts, and then in Massachusetts he lost his job. My husband lost his job. So I feel like that was like a sign that we were like okay to do this. So we kind of just both jumped with no jobs. In my cousin's house though, the position did open up that I wanted. The concierge position opened up, so I applied for it. So I was starting and he was ending, but we were both very stressed at this time. So when we finally made it to Florida, we stayed with one of our best friends, who, by the way, is an amazing friend because he let us stay in his house for like a month until like we got settled. I had my video interview at his house, which was what I was saying before. For the Disney College program, I just had a phone interview, but this time there's like video interviews because of like what's happened with like sickness and stuff. A lot of things move towards cameras, but I had my interview in his house and I got the job in his house. So he was really amazing, and he even let us like use his car to like look for apartments while we were there. And we eventually found an apartment and we bought a car, and yeah, we were moving along, and my husband eventually got a job, and yeah, we were doing it. We were really doing it, guys. Once we got the apartment, we started with like the paperwork and stuff for when you move somewhere new, like license and like registering the car and all that. And then I also continued with my Disney process. So I went to my casting, not my casting, their casting. The casting building is where basically you fill in all your paperwork and stuff. And I fear that I was as excited and as insufferable as I was during my Disney College Program acceptance, because I dressed like this anywhere. I dressed like this, basically Disney bounding Mickey. So yeah, I was excited, for lack of a better word. Also, I cut all my hair off, and I definitely looked like an 80-year-old named Edith. So, but I felt cute, so it worked out. At this point, Janelle had gone back to Puerto Rico to go get our stuff and go get our cats, our kitties. So it gave me an opportunity to live completely by myself, which was, I'll be honest, terrifying. I did not like being in an apartment by myself with no one else in a place I didn't know. But when I came back, I finally saw my little babies, which I hadn't seen in 2 months. So it was really heartwarming, and our family was finally like complete again and in a new place. And this was like our new life. And yeah, that was exciting. Anyways, back to my Disney journey. I went to Traditions a second time, here somewhere, and my orientation. And then when I showed up to work, I had noticed something peculiar in that it was a third shift position. And I didn't really understand how, because back when I did my Disney College Program, the concierge role was a different one from the front desk role. So the front desk would stay open pretty much the whole night, but the concierge desk would close at 11 p.m. So I didn't really understand how a concierge role could be third shift, because in my head, at 11 we closed. So how was it third shift? But I found out that the concierge and the front desk role were now one. So it was around the clock. And so I was now third shift concierge, which was not what I was planning. And I was also at the Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge, which was also not what I planned, but you get what you get, And I was very nervous about it, because it would mean driving during the night, which I'm not great with. And it would also mean that I was driving at not only at night, but somewhere I was unfamiliar with. So that's a very triggering thing for me. I get panic attacks if I get lost while I'm driving. So if I couldn't see where I was going and I didn't know where I was going, it was very nerve-wracking. But what we would do is my husband would drive. I would drive with my husband to where I was supposed to go. Every time I had a shift anywhere, we would drive to where I was supposed to go, so I could at least see where I was supposed to go. And then I would use Google Maps. Google Maps was my best friend. Has always been my best friend whenever I would have it, but I couldn't do it by myself. But even though it was a third shift thing and I was bummed for it for a while, I did meet my team, and they're amazing. Well, most of them are amazing. Third shift was rough to get used to because of having to stay awake the whole night, but I got the hang of it pretty quick. And it was also rough in the sense that you don't really have management at that time, or all the daytime people are gone basically. So you do have a manager, but it's basically for emergencies. If there's an emergency, you can call them and they'll take a while to get there. So you kind of learned how to handle the whole resort by yourself, and with your obviously with your castmates, you're not alone. But it was maybe 2 or 3 of us every night. It was a very big learning curve, but I think it really helped in my career, because I became very independent in the way that I can work by myself and I can manage things by myself. I did eventually make it to back office, which basically means I was the manager when there wasn't a manager. So if there was any minimal conflict, I would have to handle it. And I basically ran the resort, and obviously my concierge outside would help me with the guests face to face. And then if there was a situation, then I would have to handle it. But it gave me enough confidence to do that, because Getting there, I would have never done that because that sounded terrifying to me, because running the resort by myself and everything being my responsibility was too much for me. I've never wanted to be management ever in any place I've ever worked at. But being there and having my team, I felt confident enough to do that. So I really appreciate them for that. They were really helpful and we had an amazing team. Obviously, we had the manager that you could call for any emergency, really. We had like a reputation of not needing management a lot. We were pretty self-sufficient at Disney Animal Kingdom Lodge third shift. So yeah, we were proud of that. We were proud of the fact that we could handle it. Obviously, it doesn't mean that we never needed them. When you need them, you need them. But, you know, we tried to solve everything as best we could. So I had a pretty good team. Also, tea time, in my opinion, it was one of the 2 worst times in the day. I feel like the other bad time would be like check-in time, because people don't understand why their room isn't ready at 12 midday. But I feel like you saw the worst of the worst at check-in time and also at third shift, because people are exhausted from the park. So I don't completely blame them. They're exhausted. They've been in the parks all day and then they get to the resort and there's a situation. So I completely understand it. But there were places, like, there were people who, like, they would complain, and I'm just here to help you, my guy. Don't yell at me because it rained in the parks. Like, it's Florida. It rains every day. But yeah. It was just very tense the whole time. Like, you would come into the shift just expecting conflict, and that's like, I don't know, you were anxious all the time, so it wasn't the best. But like I said, we had a great team and we could handle it. So anyway, this is all Disney related. So what happened outside of Disney? So historically, people from Puerto Rico, they usually flock to either Orlando or New York, and to a minimal number like Texas or LA. But that meant there was like a huge community of Puerto Ricans in Florida. And so it was really tough to feel homesick when you were surrounded by that culture. And this time I did have like family and friends, like obviously the friend I mentioned before. And also I had a cousin over there that lived like 5 minutes away from me. So it wasn't too bad. And like I said, we had like, well, I didn't say, we had restaurants like from my Disney College program, but we found like new restaurants. We even had like a Puerto Rican supermarket. So it was really easy this time to get used to being in Florida. Also, we had like a car. I had a car this time, so I could go wherever I wanted. If I was feeling too homesick, I could go to like any other restaurants and stuff. So that was really nice. Now, you might be wondering, if it was so great, why did you leave? So honestly, I'll be completely honest with you. It was because of the job. And third shift was really rough. I basically only saw my husband like 2 hours a day, if I saw him at all. And we didn't have like weekends together. Like, my days off would be like Tuesday and Wednesday, and he would be working, and his days off were like Saturdays and Sundays, like normal people. And I would be sleeping during the whole day, and then he would be sleeping during the night. So we didn't see each other much. Also, he got like a second job because he had lost his last job, like I said. And he had found another remote job in the house, and he was kind of going stir crazy, which I understand now because I'm going a little stir crazy now that I'm stuck at home. But yeah, it was too much, and I just didn't like. My husband is genuinely my best friend, so the fact that I couldn't see my best friend and I couldn't hang out with him, it was really starting to hurt us, and it wasn't worth like losing what we had over like a job, you know? Another fair question you might be asking is, why didn't you just move to like a daytime role so you wouldn't have like that conflict? And I could have done that. However, it didn't feel like it was that much of a plus for me. yes, I could see my husband, and that would be a plus. I would still not have the same days off. So we would see each other when we both got back from work during the night and then went to sleep together. But I don't know, there was more cons than pros for me, you know? For example, third shift you would get more on your paycheck for being third shift. So it would be like a salary decrease. I would also have to move locations and learn a new location and a new management and like hang out with new people. You would also see more guests, which I didn't want to do. I already had guests galore at night and I didn't like most of them, so I didn't want to see more people. When it came to scheduling too, third shift was a plus because you always worked from 10 to 8:30. If you had daytime, you could do like closing shift one day and then an opening shift the other. And we lived pretty far away, so it would just be, I wouldn't sleep enough. It would be, because they can't schedule you if there aren't 8 hours in between. But let's say, for example, I would close one night and then I would have to drive an hour home and then sleep for maybe 5 hours and then wake up to drive another hour to work. And that's still like, but within the 8 hours because, you know, so I couldn't handle that. At least with third shift, I was guaranteed 10 to 8:30. So I would always have the same schedule and I knew my schedule. So yeah, every week was basically the same. Now that I'm done with my excuses for not just moving to daytime, it come to the part where I have to decide if I give up this dream that I had been working towards for at least 2 years, and I had worked at Disney for 2 years at this point, and kind of just move farther away from home for all of this, or if I just kind of bit the bullet and kind of just stayed. But we decided that it wasn't like good enough for us to stay. We were both really struggling. Plus my husband had applied for a job that was a lot better than the one he had, and we would be making like a better like income basically. So it was really not that hard of a decision. The hardest part of the decision was really the fact that we would be farther away from our family, but I would be closer to other families, so it wasn't terrible. And we would also be moving to like a state that we would prefer rather than Florida. So the other struggle that we had is the fact that it wasn't Florida, in the sense that it wouldn't have like a huge like Puerto Rican community. So it would feel very much like alone over there. We didn't know anybody over here other than like one friend that my husband has over here. So it was just a lot to think about, but we had ultimately decided that it was better for us to go and it was time to go. At least by this point, we had proof that we could do it. We had successfully started a life in Florida by ourselves, and we knew that we could handle it. So even though Florida was away from Puerto Rico, it was like a easy stepping stone in my opinion, because it was close to home. So if we had anything happen, we could just fly back home, and then this would be like the real like challenge, because it was away from home and we absolutely know nothing about Maryland. So yeah, I think our experiences really helped us grow, in the sense that we knew we could do it. And we had lived alone before in Puerto Rico, but obviously it was Puerto Rico. We could just go home if we wanted to one of our parents. So yeah, I think Florida is where we really blossomed and became like adultier adults, you know? But yeah, it was a good experience. I wouldn't trade it. It was time to pack up and move once again, but at least this time we had furniture and we had a car, and we just had to look for an apartment, which we had already done and selected. We went on a trip like around July, I think, to look for apartments because we knew we would be moving. And then we went and we had the apartment already. So that was really good. And like I said, we already had like all our stuff, so we didn't really have to start from zero like we did in Florida. And we actually drove all the way to Maryland. We had our first large road trip, which was about 14 hours with one stop in Georgia. And yeah, I have a picture right here. But I personally had never visited Maryland. I didn't even know, like I knew it was a state, but I had never gone there and I didn't know what was there. So I was very unfamiliar with it, which was another plus from Florida. I had visited Disney and Universal and like all the parks so many times, and I had become familiarized with the area. But in Maryland, I didn't know anything about anything. So that was kind of rough. But we spent a couple days when we went to look for apartments, kind of like familiarizing ourselves with the area as well, so we could feel more at home when we finally got there. And so I feel like that really helped. We also had that friend, like my husband's friend here, so he kind of like told us spots that we could go to, and that really helped. But we're still finding like places to like hang out and stuff. We still haven't found a good escape room, and I will always suffer because we left the Bureau behind. If you like escape rooms, I can do a whole video about it, but the Bureau in Florida is the best escape room I've ever gone to. I highly suggest it in Orlando. It's just the Bureau. I miss it. RIP. No, not RIP. It's still open, but I really want to go back and go there again because they have some new rooms, and we didn't get to go before we left. We're gonna have to go back to Florida. I don't make that decision to visit though, not move. So when we came to look for apartments, we tried to look for places that were Puerto Rican so we can kind of have that same like feel that we had in Florida. But unfortunately, we didn't really find any. We found a food truck in Baltimore called, I'm pretty sure, Lote 787. But that's pretty much all we found. I think someone suggested like a Mexican Puerto Rican fusion restaurant that we really want to go to, so we'll check that. We have expanded our cuisine here though. We have tried a lot of other stuff, so that's really cool. But obviously it's a lot easier to get homesick here because it is really different. So there is not a lot of Puerto Ricans here that we've met. We've met a couple and we've like gotten excited every time we find someone, because that's how Puerto Ricans are. We get excited when we find our people. But it is really easy to get homesick, which I feel like it's kind of a plus though, because it inspires us to want to visit Puerto Rico more. We went last year for Christmas, which we were still in Florida, but we went last year for Christmas and our birthdays. We have a joint birthday because, like I said before, we have I'm the 21st and he's the 22nd, so we're one day apart. But we went to Puerto Rico to I know I keep saying Puerto Rico weird. I'm sorry. It's just switching from English to Spanish in the blink of an eye is kind of hard. But it was really fun, and all we want to do is go back to Puerto Rico. So I feel like that's a plus. Well, not for our wallets, but it is a plus that we want to go back so much, because when we were in Florida, I don't think we ever, like a single time, went back to Puerto Rico. So it was 2 years in Florida, and we went to that's the TikTok trend. The TikTok trend when your accent comes out. Oh, anyway, we went to Puerto Rico in like when we were about to leave, so it's like we didn't really feel the need. But now we went back for Christmas, like I said, and we're already like looking for the next flight out to go see like family and stuff and celebrate certain things that are happening. But yeah, I don't know. It's very much a lot more Americanized up here. It is the North, so it makes sense. It also doesn't help that I'm not working, so I can't really meet much people. My apartment is empty, so I'm just meeting myself, and I'm not meeting yourself. It's healthy but not fun when it's the only thing you do. Like I said, though, I am closer to my dad and my cousin, so I can see my dad more. And I haven't seen my dad a lot since he moved to the U.S. So that's really a plus, and I'm excited. But even though those are like the cons, we are just starting out here. So I'm hopeful that we'll find a community soon. Our adventure is just starting. Like I said, we moved here, I would say like half a year ago. So we're just starting, and I feel like we can build a good life here. So I'm hopeful. It is a very good place to live that I've seen. It feels safe. So that's good for when we like want to start our family and want to start that process. So I don't know. I feel like it was a good decision, even though it's like there's a lot more sacrifice to be up here. But yeah, like I said, I don't compare my struggles to anybody else's. Like my struggles are so minimal. So that's why I think we're gonna be okay. I've also been struggling a bit because, like I said, I'm not working, and I've worked my whole life, so that feels very weird for me. It's very like outside of my comfort zone, but it is giving me an opportunity to like try under other endeavors, like focusing on my book, which is very close to being published, and doing YouTube, and maybe focusing on other hobbies that I have. So maybe it's like a time to rediscover myself. But yeah, it's just unlearning some societal expectations, you know? Maybe I can be successful on YouTube or doing other creative things that don't require me to go to like an office, which is, you know, not what people expect. Or maybe I don't, which is fine also. Like I can go back to an office. Like it's just my time to discover who I am. But like I said, even though I miss Puerto Rico, especially after Bad Bunny's latest album, thank you, Benito, you broke my heart. I am excited to build a home here, and I'm excited for the future. And honestly, it feels good to know that if we do like fail, which isn't really a failure, if we don't stick it here and we just want to go back home, we can. Like it's always good to have that support, knowing we have that support system back home, that we can just fly back home and it'll be fine. So yeah, it's just seeing if this is where our life is going to be. So it's exciting. And that's where we are now. The end of my story, but the beginning of our story. So I might update you if stuff starts happening, you know, especially obviously if my book publishes and everything. I'll let you guys know, and anything else that might come along the way, I'll let you guys know. But thank you for tuning into my second YouTube video ever, and follow along to see what else I talk about. I already have some ideas, but if anything you heard in these videos pique your interest, just let me know and I'll talk about them in another video. And I wasn't kidding about the open invitation. I really want to hear your guys' stories about your experience in the diaspora, and you know, I feel like it'd be good and healing for everybody to just kind of hear each other out and hear our stories and share what we've been through, you know? I really want to create like a safe space here, and I know that's like a token word, like safe space, but I feel like now more than ever we all need like a little healing, you know? That's it for me today. Like and subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you next time. Bye!